So I'm Roger Hull. I work for PwC as a management consultant. Um, I did a course at Aberdeen University 3 or 4 years ago, one of the online distance courses in
Mhm.
an MSc in oil and gas decommissioning.
Yeah.
My background is in engineering,
Mhm.
and also I'm a chartered accountant. And
Yeah.
I tend to just mix those two skills together deliver as a management consultant.
That's very interesting. Thank you. And why did you decide to study manufacturing engineering for your undergraduate degree?
I think was probably some of it was for the variety of that course. I was sort of strong in maths and physics and so on, and I felt it would be a great introduction to the working world.
Mhm.
Talking about sort of lean and sort of cost reduction, but also the fact it wasn't too narrow, I think was one of the attractions of it.
Mhm. Interesting. And how did your PhD in manufacturing strategy and systems influence your transition into management consulting?
Um, I guess it gave you a bit more of a broader outlook on how businesses operate, and it gave me that strategic viewpoint as well as
Mhm.
getting down into some of the operations and systems design side of things. And I think at one stage I thought, okay, I understand the strategy to operations, but I'd like to understand a bit about the finance side. So that's why
Mhm.
I joined PwC and got the accountancy background as well. And then you're just mixing the two together really
Mhm.
um, as a management consultant.
Very interesting. And what motivated you to pursue master's degree in Aberdeen as well, in oil and decommissioning?
Yeah, well, I guess one thing is it's clearly the way that the North Sea is
Mhm.
going. In a lot of the places, it is decommissioning a lot of its assets, and it's a growing market in marketplace, as it were. Another thing is I've done a lot of work with oil and gas companies in the
Mhm.
past since about 2007 onwards. So I was really interested in oil and gas as an industry sector, and it
Mhm.
seemed a natural follow on from that really to explore a future direction that the industry may well be going in,
Mhm.
particularly locally.
Interesting. And your career at PwC spans over 27 years. Could you share some key milestones in your career?
I guess the first milestone would have been when I sort of qualified as an accountant. So that was
Mhm.
sort of the end of one phase and beginning of the next one where
Mhm.
I moved into management consulting. And I guess the first sort of consulting engagement I worked on was, what you might say, was a bit of a milestone. It was a large scale business transformation piece of work for an organisation, a manufacturing organisation in the Midlands. And then probably a few years later, another key one was probably um, an actual transformation of an oil and gas organisation in the North Sea based out of Aberdeen.
Mhm.
That was kind of broad um, based transformation, and that really got me into the sector. So
Mhm.
I think that was another key one. And then perhaps after that, it really got me more into doing sort of the business and operating model type transformation work rather than just pure productivity.
Mhm.
Ever since then, I've really been focusing mostly on the oil and gas, but also some nuclear sector as well.
Very impressive, very impressive. And the next question will be is, how has your experience working across diverse regions such as Middle East, Europe, and North America influenced your leadership and problem-solving style?
Yeah, so I've worked in probably more almost 20 different countries in my
Mhm.
career, and I'd say the a key part of that experience is being able to be flexible with the culture that you're working in,
Mhm.
to respect those cultures, but also to be mindful of the language that you use. You don't shouldn't be using
Mhm.
too much jargon when you're engaging with people, and really sort of be a bit more understanding of their ways of working.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, you're there to bring some rigor as well. So it's being able to adapt and be flexible in your approach. I think is
Mhm.
important.
Interesting. And as an expert in business transformation, what key strategies do you focus on when helping clients implement strategic change?
I think the key one there is it's about the people. You
Mhm.
need need to have to get the people on board. It is the people that will sustain that change, particularly once consultants leave. And what you don't want to do is create documentation and so on, and it just sits on the shelf. So you want to try and make it real for people. So you need
Yeah.
to bring them into the whole vision of what the change is about, and really help them to understand and to own that change going forward. I think
Mhm.
that's those key elements.
Interesting. And what would you say was the proudest moment in your career? On maybe few moments.
Well, probably not the proudest, but quite an interesting one was, again, it was with an oil and gas company.
Mhm.
There'd been one strategy house that had been in there and developed them a sort of a strategy of how they wanted to change.
Mhm.
Another strategy house came in and sort of tried to implement it. And the client then turned to us as PwC and said, okay, can you actually help us embed it properly and actually make it sustainable? So that was quite proud to actually be brought in to help them solve that problem where two of the strategy houses have
Mhm.
maybe dropped the ball a bit. But also the fact that the impact we had with the people, working with them actually to embed that change, and it lasted after we'd left. And they were always referring back to it. So I think that was quite a proud moment. And that was globally across various regions for this organisation. So that was a great one to do.
Very impressive. And given your experience in oil and gas sector, what major trends do you see shaping the industry, particularly in transition to renewable energy?
Yeah, I guess there is that investment in renewable energy, but at the same time, as you might expect, there's still a demand for hydrocarbons. So it's how they balance that
Mhm.
demand, both from a point of view of energy security, but also looking for the future
Mhm.
into renewables. So there's that investment as you're seeing across the patch. But also it's how their operating models are developing. So you're seeing a lot more joint ventures starting to come in place. There's one that was announced just before Christmas, with Shell and Equinor and so on in the UK. So that type of activity is continuing, and similarly,
Mhm.
I should expect there's mergers and acquisitions going on, as there always has been in the sector. But there is that drive more for
Mhm.
renewables, definitely.
Interesting, interesting. And what are the biggest challenges that companies face when they're restructuring for sustainability, and how can they overcome them?
Um, as I said before, it is about the people. So
Mhm.
the restructuring obviously requires potentially regulatory approval, as the case may be, but it's also bringing the people along that journey. Yeah, a lot of these organisations, yes, they're very asset intensive and technology dependent, but it is the people that make things that sort of oil the wheels, as it were, and enable an operating model to work appropriately. So there's a bit about making sure you're bringing them along the journey.
Mhm.
There's also elements about how you embed good behaviours in the way that people work and how you use processes and systems to assist
Mhm.
that. And then I guess it's also looking to the future as well. So thinking about how can artificial intelligence, etc., how can that actually help people work and make things more efficient?
Mhm.
So it's not just about changing now; it's about looking forward and where that change may take organisations. So they're not continuously having to restructure. They should be a bit more about them evolving to meet and be a bit more agile in the way they work.
Mhm. Interesting. And what would be your advice for students aspiring to work in management consulting and business transformation?
I'd say there's probably a couple of things. No doubt there's experience counts, whether it's in industry or elsewhere. So look to see how you can get some experience, so, real world experience, as it were. And then it's also, as and when you join as a management consultant, it's look to try and get that breadth across various
Mhm.
industries, and then actually consider about how you can apply maybe your experiences and techniques you may have
Mhm.
developed in one industry and look for where that analogy might be in another
Mhm.
sector. So that's like taking, say, lean manufacturing and applying it in say, a hospital environment. How can those sort of waste reduction techniques find opportunities for efficiency gains elsewhere? So I
I
think
see.
that's probably a key sort of learning.
Interesting. And would you say networking is important for students? And if yes, what advice do you have for students the best way to utilize networking for them?
Yeah, so I think networking is obviously useful. Have some
Mhm,
contacts in organisations, and to use those contacts as much as you can. So
mhm,
you've contacted me for this video, for example, but then it's about maintaining those contacts. So
mhm,
um, you know, certainly in my business management consulting, it is a people business,
mhm,
and it's about maintaining those long-term relationships. Even if you may meet people early on in their career, those
mhm,
relationships can be important because people evolve
mhm,
and develop in their careers. So it's maintaining as you grow in your career those relationships that you may develop early on,
mhm,
and that goes for any sector, any industry, any career that you're really
mhm.
doing. It's
I see.
maintain the network.
Interesting. And are there any books or resources you find particularly useful in your industry? Or maybe there are some books that just like inspire or motivate you that you want to share with our students?
I guess there's always some good ones. Myself coming from a manufacturing background, a lot of the publications by the Lean Enterprise Academy are good to read. Some of the lean thinking type books by Womack and Jones are always good.
Mhm,
And then if you want more of a story type book, then The Goal by Goldrat's always a good one to read.
mhm,
Um, they focus on real life examples, um, in how to actually be more efficient, reduce waste, reduce bottlenecks, and so on. They're good all round reads, I would say, and they can be applied across industry sectors.
mhm. Interesting. And the last question will be, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, that's a good one. I would say just get out there,
Mhm,
just get stuck in, develop those relationships early on, and as I said before, maintain them. Um, it is the people in whatever industry sector you'd be surprised how much people come around.
mhm,
And follow what you're interested in. You've got to be passionate about what you're doing in a career. So maintain that passion and look for what drives and motivates you. Don't do a job just for the sake of it. Do it because you're interested in it.